Welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and today I have my very special guest, Nathan Hale of Nathan Hale Classics. So why don't you introduce yourself, Nathan?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? My name is Nathan Hale from Nathan Hale Classics, and I've been on Harrison's channel before. Really honored to be back again. I love talking old movies, so just a little introduction as to what I talk about. I love the classics, so on my channel, you'll find me talking about old Hollywood stars. I do rankings of like older movies. I also like talking about the Criterion Collection, and I think, oh, and then occasionally doing video essays. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Nice. Yeah, and make sure to follow his channel, guys. The links to everything will be in the description. And before we get started, Nathan, if I remember right, you watched all of Billy Wilder's movies, correct?
I did, yes.
Yeah, and so what was that experience like seeing his whole filmography?
It was so awesome. I decided that I wanted to do it when I was watching Sunset Boulevard for the second time, and I looked up his filmography and I saw that he really didn't make like too many. Like, yes, he made quite a bit. So his
Mhm.
whole filmography is 25 movies at least available to watch. And so I was like, okay, that's doable. And it every movie I watched, a few of his later ones weren't very good, but especially when
Mhm.
he was in like the prime time of his career, it was just a treat every time because he was so good at writing those witty scripts. He was so good at his directing, and I discovered so many favorites, one of which is in my top 25 of all time. Unfortunately, it's not Some Like It Hot, but he had made so many great movies. So I feel like um I know him better, and it just makes me appreciate him. And it's kind of cool whenever I do revisit his movies now. It's like visiting an old friend, as cheesy as that sounds, but that's kind of how it feels.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I got the right person today for this.
Yeah, yeah.
No. Um, and then you had a ranking video of his movies, correct? So
Yes.
okay, cool. So I'll make sure to plug that as well.
Yeah,
And
sounds
yeah,
good.
make sure to check it out, guys.
The viewers might not love where Some Like It Hot is ranked, but I still like the movie, I promise.
All right, cool. Well, let's get into some behind the scenes details about Some Like It Hot. So, I don't know if you knew this or not, Nathan, but I guess Marilyn Monroe needed 47 takes to say, "It's me, sugar."
Hmm.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I read a biography about her earlier, or no, it was last year, two of them last year, and she was not easy to work with. Had a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and oh man, she was not the easiest person to work with. I've heard that same thing. This might be it's when she goes into the room and says like I need a glass of bourbon or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That one too.
Sorry, were you about to say that?
No, that's
She
fine. Go for it. Go
Yeah,
for it.
no, yeah, apparently I don't know how many takes, but apparently that one was also one that they had to keep reshooting because she didn't like the way she was saying it. And yeah, I just think that's really funny because it's like she's just requesting a drink, and then the final product doesn't even show her say it either. It's like her off screen when she says it.
Right. So that makes you wonder if that was dubbed or not, right? Like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just like, I give up. We got to do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And just this movie in general, when you read about it, I guess there were a lot of things like that. Like she would show up late to set all the time,
Hmm.
kept flubbing her lines, all of that. And a lot of the actors, especially Tony Curtis, just hated working with her as a result of
Yes.
that.
Yeah, very frustrated with her. That was in the biography as well.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know if you knew this too, but they used the location of the Hotel Coronado in San Diego. That way
Mhm.
they could keep her in like a housing situation, basically.
Oh, interesting.
So she's like staying at the hotel or something, and they just bring her downstairs.
Wow, interesting. They're really trying. They're like, we will do anything, just please show up.
Right.
That's funny.
Because I guess at that point, it was kind of when she started getting heavy into drugs and all of that.
Hmm.
So she needed a handler a lot too. But
Sure, yeah.
but yeah, but a more fun, a more fun behind the scene detail. I guess Frank Sinatra was initially going to be cast in the role of Jerry, Jack Lemon's character, and but he missed a lunch with uh, Billy Wilder, so Jack Lemmon was cast instead. So
Oh,
it
that's
goes
so
to show.
interesting.
It
Yeah,
makes you
that's so
wonder how
interesting.
different that would have been.
I know. Oh man. I think Jack Lemmon is horrifying in drag, and I don't know if Frank Sinatra would be much better.
No, no, but I think he and Tony Curtis are a little too similar. So I'm glad they had Jack Lemmon to kind of
Yeah,
be a little different.
that's a good point.
Yeah. All right. So now we'll get into the actual review itself. So Nathan, what are your overall thoughts on the plot, and what do you give it out of five?
Yeah, so I think the plot is very clever. I think it's a funny excuse to get Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon in drag because
Yeah.
you can't really just like make a script and be like, oh, and by the way, you're going to be dressed in drag for half the movie. Like you have to have a reason, and the reason is funny. And Billy Wilder, I mean, him being behind the plot is perfect because he's such a talented screenwriter, and so he has those hilarious moments that he writes in that are only Billy Wilder signatures. Like no one else could have thought of it, but he did it and it's incredible. And so I think it's creative. It's not like it's like the most creative thing in the world, but
Mhm.
it is like at least a creative means to get the story going and then have the story be entertaining with what's unfolded as the movie goes. And so I'm going to give the plot a 4 out of 5.
Nice. Yeah, well, right with you. I thought it was amazing too. I actually liked it a little bit more. I give it a 5 out of 5.
Nice.
I love that dynamic, the dynamic between Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. I thought they were hilarious characters
Mhm.
together. And I just love how it's partially a gangster movie, but also a comedy, but also a musical. So it's like kind of a mix of
Yeah.
these different genres. I really liked that. Yeah. And then also screwball comedy. So I thought it was a really funny combination, just overall. So we got to attribute that to Billy Wilder, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So speaking of that, what are your thoughts on the acting?
So the acting, this is where my hot takes come in.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, no. I'll say right off the bat, I think that I'll say my number first. I'm gonna give the acting a 3 out of 5,
Okay.
and that's my hot take. But my problem is Jack Lemmon, and I can say that fairly because I've seen the movie. I think I've seen it 3 times, maybe 4 times. I think I've seen it 3 times. And so it's not like I just saw it once and I was like, I didn't really like his performance. Like I've revisited this movie and every time I watch it, I try to go into it like just be patient with Jack Lemmon. Like it's just a zany performance, just enjoy it. And I can never really get into it because he's too over the top for me. And I know that it actually I think it was on my Marilyn Monroe ranking video. Someone commented saying how like Jack Lemmon's acting is so good because it complements Tony Curtis's serious acting. And you said that earlier. And I actually
Yeah.
agree with that point. Like, I think that's a great point, but there's something still about how over the top he is that just kind of bothers me. Like, he's just a little bit too much. I need him to tone it down a little bit. I know it's
Mhm.
a comedy, but I need him to tone it down. And this isn't only Some Like It Hot problem. I had the same problem in The Apartment and in some other movies where he's like younger. When he gets older, for some reason, I can stand him more. But it's solely
It's
and
mellow
so
out.
because of that, yeah, because of that, it brings it down. But everyone else, funny enough, Marilyn Monroe, love her in this. I think that she is uh just prime Marilyn Monroe in this film. Um, and I watched a lot of her movies last year, and it was neat seeing her play serious roles because
Mhm.
I thought she was only made to like I don't want to say only made, but I thought she could only do things like she doesn't Some Like It Hot, where she's just kind of the dumb blonde.
Right,
But
right.
she definitely does have acting range. But this movie was just like incredible for her and possibly her I don't know about her best, but my one of my favorite performances from her at least. So and then Tony Curtis is good. I don't want to spend too much time on him. I like him. I don't have any like specific opinions about him like I do with Marilyn and Jack Lemmon.
Mhm.
So I just kind of evened it out. The bad kind of brought it down to 3 out of 5.
Oh wow. Okay.
that's my
Well,
that's my lowest
right.
score of the video. So you
There you
guys don't have to
go.
worry about the future.
Well, I disagree with you a little bit here. I actually gave it a 5 out of 5 because I actually
Nice.
love Jack Lemmon. I thought
Oh,
he was
we're exact
hilarious.
opposites. No, I
Yeah.
love that. That's great.
um, Now I do agree in his other films, like I didn't really like him in The Apartment, but for some reason, when he's just like really, really crazy, like in this movie and The Great Race, I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I
Um,
haven't seen The Great Race. No.
oh, you got to check that one out. That one also has Tony
Okay.
Curtis, but I
Oh,
don't know,
funny.
something about his over over the top in those movies, and this one uh makes me really really like him, especially when he's in the drag. I think that's the funnier part.
That's
um
where that's why earlier I said he's horrifying in drag. It's because he's so over the top. It kind of creeps me out. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. It's just like, it's a good thing it's black and white because I read somewhere that they had to make it in black and white. Otherwise, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon would look horrifying in color because their
Oh,
makeup just looks awful.
oh, I bet.
Yeah, so it's a good thing it's black and white.
Oh man. But anyway, so I like Tony Curtis as well. I think he was a little too perfect though, because he didn't he was a little too much like a woman. I thought that was interesting. He played a
Oh
little too
yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um and then I actually did not like Marilyn Monroe. So that's the thing. I
Funny. Okay.
Interestingly enough, this is the only movie I've seen her in, so I don't really know how she is as an actress
Okay.
overall. So maybe that'll change in the future. But um, I think she's just there for her looks and the singing, honestly. Like, she didn't seem like a really
Hmm.
good in-depth actor. Like, well, I guess the other two aren't really either, but still, I wasn't very impressed with her.
Hmm. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. But maybe that'll change in the future, and hopefully everybody who's eviscerating me in the chat won't unsubscribe now.
Yeah, no
But
kidding. No kidding.
uh, but yeah, anyways, let's move on to the directing. What are your thoughts on the directing?
So I think the directing is great. It's I have a hard time distinguishing directing from writing. I like, for an example, when I think of Billy Wilder, I don't think of his directing, even though he's a great director. I think of his writing right away. And
Mm,
so I'm more so, but like when watching this movie, there's nothing that I think like, ooh, he should have done that differently or anything like that. Like I think that he gets the right shots. The movie has good pacing. It's the writing that is just so clever. But I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5.
yeah, yeah, that's not bad at all. I mean, I'm pretty close with you there. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Um,
Okay, nice.
but I don't know why I didn't give it a 5 out of 5, because there's nothing I really hate about it. I don't know. It just felt a little, um, I guess, constrained because they mainly use that one set. That maybe that's my
Sure.
critical point. There is, I wish they could have expanded a little bit more beyond the hotel.
And I know that sometimes with me too, I kind of had the same thought process. I was like, well, why can't I give it a 5 out of 5? And sometimes with me, I actually have to ask myself, well, what's an example of directing that I would give a 5 out of 5? And
Mm,
then I compare it to this and I'm like, no, this isn't a 5 out of 5. So I just know that it's not a 5 out of 5, but it's like still good. So I'm like, okay, I'll settle with a 4.5 out of 5.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can't think of one off the top of my head right now,
Yeah, fair enough.
but that's a good idea to do that in the future. Let's see. I did like the use of blocking he used in this film, especially in like the music scenes. I really like the
Oh
use of like
yeah.
the dark lighting with Marilyn Monroe and all that. That was really cool.
Yes.
Um, and I guess that kind of leads into my cinematography and special effects, but we'll get into that later. But
Okay.
yeah, I thought he was great overall. I don't think it's my favorite direction he's done though. I think I still like Sunset Boulevard more from
Hmm.
him in
Yeah,
regards
I
to
do
that.
too.
All right. So we'll move on to cinematography and special effects. Speaking of, so what are your thoughts on that?
So this isn't a movie to me that screams like great cinematography. It's not bad by any means, but I don't think it's a movie that, like, when people are talking about iconic cinematography, they're not having some like a hot in the conversation. And so it was kind of hard for me to give a rating because I don't think it's like bad by any means. I think it does its job. And so I just settled with a 4 out of 5. Which on my scale, that's still great. And so I think it's great with what it does, but it's not the standout of the movie. Like, you shouldn't go into Some Like It Hot expecting some amazing cinematography, but there is some great stuff in here, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I'm right with you. I also gave it a 4 out of 5. Um, like I mentioned, I didn't like how tight it was.
Hmm.
Takes place at the hotel, but I do love the visual comedy. Like one of my favorite scenes is when Daphne is walking in the elevator with what's his name, Osgood, I think,
Yeah,
for
I
the
think
first.
so.
I think so. So they go in and it zooms in on the elevator numbers or whatever, goes up
Oh,
to the
yes.
top. then back to one, and then they're walking out, and you see Osgood like rubbing his face. I always thought that was
Yes.
hilarious.
Yes, yes. There's definitely plenty of moments like that where he doesn't he shows us instead of tells us, and I love that.
Yeah, so to me, that's one of the highlights of the movie. Uh, all right. So, what are your thoughts on the music?
Music, crazy enough, is the only category I give a 5 out of 5 to. I think that this movie has two iconic Marilyn Monroe songs. The first one being on the train with the Running Wild. It's just so catchy. And her that little like shimmy she does as she's like playing her ukulele, I think it is.
Uh-huh.
It's just so catchy, and it's like it just to me embodies Marilyn Monroe perfectly. But then I Want to Be Loved by You. I think that's what it's called. I know this song, but I think it's called I Want to Be Loved by You. Um Anyways, I Want to Be Loved by You. That's a song that I like so much that it's actually made it onto my normal liked songs like playlist on Spotify. So it
Oh,
will come on
really?
shuffle. Yeah, it will come on shuffle, and it just like makes me feel so vintage. And I was driving with my sister the other day, and it came on shuffle, and I was like, "Have you ever heard of Marilyn Monroe?" And she's like, "No." And I was like, "Look up a picture, and you'll recognize her." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I recognize her." And I was like, "Yeah." So this song is by her, and we were both talking about just like I don't know if this is the best way to describe it, but her voice is just very cute. Like it almost sounds like Betty Boop. It's just like
Mm,
very high pitch, almost sounds like Snow White. Like it's just,
yeah,
it's a
almost
very,
cartoony.
yeah, yeah, it's a very cutesy voice. And I love the way that the scene with her song is filmed, with the spotlight on her. You talked about this with the
Mhm.
blocking and everything and or the lighting and
Right.
shadows and whatnot. I love that whole scene. And I think it's probably the most iconic scene of the movie, that musical number. And so those are the big highlights for me. And because I like those songs so much, I was like, you know what? I'm going for it. Let's just give it the 5 out of 5. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I also gave it a 5 out of 5.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. Now that song you were mentioning, is that the one at the very end when she's singing about Tony Curtis's character leaving?
No, that's a good song too. That
Okay.
it's the one that she sings. Well, I'm not going to sing it for you right now, but maybe maybe in the edit you can like include a clip or something. I don't know, but it's like it's called. I want to make sure it's called "I Want to Be Loved by You," but it's the
Okay.
one where at the end she's like "boop boop be doop," and then it's like and it's just cute. I don't know.
Okay.
um, Let me see. Yeah, it's called "I Want to Be Loved by You" by Marilyn Monroe. It's the one that she's wearing like the gold dress. I think it's a gold dress. I don't know. It's a
Or
sparkly
it's a black
dress.
and white.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a sparkly dress, and it's not at the ending because like Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, when she sings the song, it's when they're in the background playing in the band.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
when they're like delivering the flowers or whatever, like taking the flowers. So it's that whole sequence.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I was thinking it was the one at the end, but I like that one too.
Yeah, also good. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Love the music. I think it was a great idea of making this take place in the 20s with the jazz music. I think that was
Oh,
really, really good
yes.
choice. So good.
I
And
forgot to even bring up the jazz. I loved the jazz.
yeah, because let's see, I don't remember which, but one of them plays the bass, or not the bass, the whatever they call that
It's
giant
yeah,
orchestra.
yeah.
Yeah,
The cello.
yeah,
It's Jack Lemmon plays the cello, and then Tony Curtis, I think, is on the sax. I want to say he's on the sax.
yeah, yeah. I think that's
Does show it
right.
on the cover actually?
Right.
Yep, yep, the cover shows it.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I just love that style of music. It's perfect. And they really encapsulate that era with the gangsters and the music and all of that.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought I agree. It's a great music overall. All right. So what does that bring your final score to?
So it's like a weird decimal. I think it's like a 4.1, but I'm just gonna say a 4 out of 5. On letter, and that's exactly what I have it as on Letterboxd.
Oh,
And
nice.
I think that perfectly encapsulates my feelings for the film. And like I said earlier, I've seen it a few times. This isn't an unfair rating. I feel like this is a very just rating, but it perfectly encapsulates my rating where I do definitely acknowledge it's a great movie and there are a lot of elements I like, but I also acknowledge that there are things I don't like. Jack Lemmon's acting, and that's okay. Like I can still love the movie or really like the movie and have problems with it. And so this is like always my hot take when it comes to Billy Wilder talk. Everyone usually has some like a hot in like their top 5, if not their top 3 or their number 1, and it's like, well, spoiler alert, it's not even in my top 10. So it might be in my top 10 now. That video is a little dated. It's like a year old and I've since rewatched it. So I might like squeeze it in at number 7 or 8 or something. But I think a 4 out of 5 is a fitting rating for me personally.
Nice. And so because of that, you recommend it then? Or
Yes, I
yeah.
would definitely recommend watching it. Even though I have problems with it, I know that the problem that I have is a very like me kind of problem, and other people aren't gonna probably be as annoyed of Jack Lemmon as I am. And so this is absolutely one that I would recommend. First off, I want to recommend any Billy Wilder movie. Secondly, it's considered one of the greatest comedies of all time. And then finally, I just love recommending black and white movies. And so if it's another excuse for someone to watch a black and white film, then that's great for me. And so I would definitely recommend it.
Nice. And speaking of, so do you agree it's one of the best comedies of all time?
Oh, I think it's one of the best black and white comedies. How about that?
That's a safe answer.
Yeah. I'll just keep it at that.
Okay. All right. Well, my letterbox score is also kind of weird. It's a 4.6, which
Okay,
I'm going around to a 5 out of 5 because
nice.
I don't think it'd be fair to give it 4.5 if it's a little bit more
Sure,
than that.
sure.
Um, I would recommend this movie. You know, it's got great music. Love Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon together. Uh, and I might say be a good introduction into Billy Wilder's films. I've
Yeah.
only seen, I think, 4 of them now. I think
It
my
was the
favorite,
first one I ever saw too. So, or it was either that or Sunset Boulevard. That was my first one. I can't remember, but I agree. Like, great introduction.
yeah, because I personally like his film noirs more, which is Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity. I like those more
Yes.
personally, but
Yes.
I think this is a good intro.
Yeah, I agree. And then I can't remember. Have you seen Witness for the Prosecution?
No, but it is on my watch list.
Okay, awesome. That one is the one that I like. I love a ton.
Okay, is let's see, is that the one with who's on the cover? I've seen a cover for it.
It's like Charles Lawton, Marlena Dietrich, and Tyrone Powell. Power. I can't think of his name right now. So it's
Okay,
Tyrone P.
right.
Yeah. But that
Okay.
one's it's a courtroom drama, and so I think you'd like it, especially if you like the more serious noirs.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, I definitely need to check that one out.
Yeah,
So many movies to check out
I
though.
know it's a never-ending list, man. I know it.
I don't know how your watch list is, but mine's at like 3,000 now. It's like, how am I gonna get through
Oh
this?
wow. No, I'm actually impressed. Mine's at like 900. I like eventually when I see movies on my watch list. Not that I go through my watch list like very regularly, but sometimes I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I just got to boot this one. This isn't gonna happen, and I just got to say goodbye to some. But I'm just under 1,000 right now.
Okay, maybe I need to do that too. It's
Yeah,
just
no
too
kidding.
many, man. Too many.
Oh, I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. All right. But overall, I think it was a good movie. I had a fun time with it.
Yeah, me too, absolutely.
All right. And so thank you so much, Nathan, for coming on today. And go ahead and plug your channel again and anything you got coming on.
Yeah, so Nathan Hale Classics, I have some fun videos coming up. Recently, I did all my end of the year videos, and so on my channel, I do a top 10 favorite first time watches of the year video, and it excludes criterions and new releases, and so that's a fun one. I pull all the movies I saw from the previous year and then make a top 10 out of it, and then I have my top 10 first time criterion watches. And then I have an award show that I call the Alfies after Alfred Hitchcock. And
Yes.
yeah, in this award show, it's kind of like my own personal Oscars where I award my favorite performance of the year in different acting categories. And then I have some funny ones, like I have an award for the weirdest movie I watched, the worst movie I watched, all that fun stuff. And so all of those videos were released in January. And so head over to my channel if you want to check those out. As for other videos I have in mind, I have funny enough, a video on Witness for the Prosecution coming out soon, another Billy Wilder movie that I love. And then I have a sequel to my Hunger Games video coming out where I throw movie characters into a Hunger Games simulation
Oh
and see who
yes, those are my
survives.
favorite. Those are
Yeah,
my
yeah.
favorite.
So I have some great videos coming out, some great videos that just came out. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, would love to have you pay a visit. And thank you again, Harrison, for having me on the channel.
Yeah, for sure. And like he said, make sure to follow him on his YouTube channel. He's also got an Instagram and Letterboxd. He's got great lists and stuff on there. And yeah, all of those are in the description.
Yeah, I have like over 100 lists on Letterboxd. It's insane. So if anyone does go to my Letterboxd and they're overwhelmed, use my tags because I've tagged all the lists purposely so that you can kind of organize what you sort through.
And on that note, thank you all so much for listening and watching today's episode. And I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. This is my guest, Nathan Hale. Take care, everyone.